Yeah, so this year's Polyglot conference is in Fukuoka, Japan, and is centered around two themes. One, which is Asia, because this first time Polyglot conference is in Asia, and the second is around indigenous languages. And this topic touches on both. So I feel like it's really suitable topic for this year's conference. So let's just give it a quick start. So who here knows what a Linguistic Olympiad was? So I know some of you guys been there. Pedro there has been to one in 2017. I've seen that. Been with that as well. And want to talk about Linguistic Olympiads. What do they do with language learning? So here we're polyglots. We're thinking that we're language learners, but what does this have to do with us? Well, now we think about there's a lot of overlap between Linguistic Olympiads and language learning. So first thing is anywhere, like most of you guys are interested in learning languages, right? So who here has learned a language without like using any grammar or like learning about the pronunciation or Everyone. Okay, besides that, a mother tongue is, okay, immersion, right. But I believe most of you guys have, if you have had this experience, that you must have had experience with some linguistics. So let's say grammar or pronunciation or orthography, those are all things that linguistics touches on. So those are kind of centered, the core are actually the same. The exposure of new linguistic concepts, it's inevitable when you learn languages because, well, it's different, something is different from your mother tongue. So let's say your mother tongue is English, while something like Russian, they have noun cases, they have declensions, you have to learn about that, but your mother tongue doesn't have it. So you have to learn a new linguistic concept when you encounter it. And the second is metalinguistic awareness is also very important. When you learn languages, you experience cultural exposure, you experience a lot of cultural diversity, and I know some people who speaks like 8 languages, but they still say, I don't know, Sanskrit is the only oldest language in the world, something like that. So you have to be aware of not just your own surroundings, but also what you speak and what the languages are, the facts, and everything about them. It's to expand your worldview, and I believe Linguistic Olympiads, they do the same thing as well. I think linguistic problems, they pave a great pathway to new linguistic concepts. So I'll talk about linguistic problems later, but linguistic problems, they're based on linguistic concepts. And to learn these new concepts, a linguistic problem would be a great way to learn about them. And they are also the foundation of Linguistic Olympiads. So now I've made a connection between language learning and Linguistic Olympiads. That gives me a reason to talk about it. Skills put into language learning, they would also be put into Linguistic Olympiads. I'll elaborate on that later. So what are linguistic problems? What are they? Many of people, you've probably seen them, you've probably heard them, but anyone here actually taken a class of linguistics or majored in linguistics, then you've probably taken a test where it's kind of like they give you a data set and they give you assignments to tell you to translate this or to solve some kind of problem. You definitely encountered this before, and those are linguistic problems. So there are a few features of linguistic problems. The first thing is they are focused on linguistic phenomena. So they intend to teach you something about that language. It can be about one, it could be about many. It can be one problem could be, I don't know, how many they can fit. It could be like 5 or 10, how many you want, just depends on if you want the people to solve it, you know. And actually prior linguistic knowledge and knowledge of other languages, you're not required to solve it. So even if you're just like an English monolingual speaker, you don't have to learn other languages in order to solve those problems. So they're constituted by three parts. One thing is a statement, which is just facts about the language. Second part is probably the most important part, the data set. It serves as a base for you to solve. The third part, which is assignments. So one other feature that they have is they're self-sufficient and they are non-parasitic, which means that the data set you have is just enough for you to solve the assignments later. And so you can't, we perfectly designed them to not have multiple answers, but also to just have one answer. You can't be 0 answers, can't be 2 answers, you just have only one answer. And it requires deductive, analytical, and lateral thinking skills. So like I mentioned, you don't need, you don't need knowledge on linguistics, but it's greatly encouraged that you do, or else you probably might not be able to write down like your explanation on the rules that you deduced and how you got to the answers themselves. So you have to have a lot of thinking skills. That's the center of linguistic problems. So here's a linguistic problem. Anyone here knows Georgian? So the left column is the country on the right in Georgian script. So like Brazil.
So Argentina, the first one.
Yeah, the second one would be.
Colombia?
Yeah, Colombia. So the first one's Argentina, the second one's Colombia. So you've learned Georgian before?
I just started actually.
But you can read the alphabet, like kind of.
I can read, but you know, it's not like
Perfect.
fluid.
Right.
I look each letter at a time.
Right. But you can like, anyone else had the same answers? No. So maybe you do. So you don't know Georgian, right? No, but like you use the rules, you use the data from on the top and use this to solve the ones on the bottom. So this is the spirit of Linguistic Olympiad. So this is probably the easier problem, easiest problems. It's just for you to test the water, to give you like a small look of what a linguistic problem is. But probably on the international stage, a problem is probably like 100 times harder than this. So Georgian countries, I'll give you this. I'll probably let you guys do this later. But since you're in Japan, thought you guys might try to attempt Japanese Braille. But I want to talk about this first. I'll let you guys do it later in the Q&A session. So these kind of problems where you match up something that is existing and its translation, and then you translate something underneath. That is what we call in linguistic problem terminology a Rosetta Stone problem. So just like the Rosetta Stone they found, the French troops found in 1799 in Egypt, which made a deciphering of the hieroglyphics possible. There was ancient Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphics, and they used their knowledge of ancient Greek to solve the hieroglyphics. So this has the same spirit. So whatever language you're solving in, English, Hungarian, or I don't know, Esperanto. We don't have a paper in Esperanto, but if you ask for one, we will probably give one for you. So since linguistic bias is pretty important when you're solving this, you solve it in different languages, you might have different insights on how to solve this problem. How do you cut into this problem? They might have different perspectives. So what language you choose to answer might differ greatly. So yeah, so ancient Greek, right now English is your ancient Greek, and let's say Japanese Braille is your hieroglyphics. So, but they can also be really wacky. So the left column, this is what we called a chaos and order problem, and you will know why this is called chaos. The left row is a list of words. The right row is also a list of words. You have to match all of them up. So there's 20 words and 20 words, and you have to match all of them up. But like, they're related, they're kind of interrelated, so it gives you a way on how to solve. But the thing about this kind of problem is you can literally solve from you can literally try to delve into this problem from any word, and it could be possible to solve this. So there's only a recommended way to how to solve. There's no official way on how to solve this. You're just matching up words with words. And this is actually considered to be one of the harder problem types, since it's just matching up words. Most people just randomly classify, just like 20, just from A to Z, just like that. But this is one of the harder ones compared to Rosetta Stone. And what are linguistic Olympiads? So linguistic Olympiads, they're based on linguistic problems. Linguistic Olympiads is mostly focused on secondary school students. I'm sorry, but we might expand that to adults. I know like the target demographic right now, you're not necessarily in high school, right? I don't think anyone of you guys are in high school. I'm sorry to say that, but we'll try to expand that to adults, soon. And the thing is, if it's on paper, then competitors will have to sit through several hours on the problems. So for instance, the International Linguistics Olympiad, you have to sit through 6 hours on like a chair like that, and you have to solve 5 problems. And you also serve as a platform for people to interact. So if you are linguistically talented, then you can interact with others probably on a national stage, probably on a world stage. You will find people who have the same interests as you. So just like this Polyglot conference, Linguistics Olympiads also serve as a way for people to meet each other. I've made a lot of lifelong friends. I've met Pedro at IOL 2017 in Dublin. So you can interact with a lot of people at Linguistic Olympiads. So it's not just a competition. And it's also a way to look for hidden linguistic talents. It's because they don't teach linguistics in high school, So, they don't teach linguistics in high school. A high school student would have to learn linguistics on your own. And if you happen to be interested, then this competition kind of paves a way for you to prove yourself that you're linguistically capable, linguistically talented. And if you want to study linguistics in your university, then this might be a great proof. You can put it on your extracurriculars, and it could look really good for you to enter a university. So this is what they normally look like, them looking innocent and not knowing what will come next to hit them. Some of them might come out crying, not sure, but yeah. This is taken at the International Linguistics Olympiad this year, 2019, and normally this is the individual round. Normally it's around 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So you say you kind of have to skip lunch, right? Well, no, you can do lunch inside. So while you do problems, you can also eat. We allow you to do that because we don't hope you to we don't want you to have a stroke, or we don't want you to faint while doing problems, because this is really stressful. This can decide your future. And, well, not decide your future, it can influence your future, all right? So you can bring food inside. I've seen some wacky stuff. My personal preference is bring 8 bottles of water for sparkled, but I've seen some weird stuff. So I know someone who brought a whole watermelon inside, and she somehow finished it. I don't know why. She didn't even she brought a spoon, but I have no idea how she split it open. I know some guy, I had a teammate who brought 30 bananas and nothing else. So we allowed any kind of food as long as you can be able to finish it or something. Just don't affect other contestants. So Linguistic Olympiads and secondary school students. Yeah, I know this is not what you guys are. But I still kind of want to talk about, maybe you could recommend to your cousin, maybe your children, I don't know, but there's a lot of countries. I'll talk about the countries that we cover later, but now we're focusing on secondary school students. So under the current curriculum, linguistics is not in high school, but it's simply too niche. It's too niche. It's just like astronomy, geology, you can't teach in high school. There's no AP I actually know someone who wants to start AP linguistics, but not now yet. It fills the gap. So it fills the gap. So if some students is interested, then they could use this as like a springboard to university. And it also serves a way to introduce the students that don't know about linguistics and put them into tests. Like I know a lot of people who come from a different background, like say a math background or like programming background, and they do that, but they heard about this and they get interested because it has a really high accessibility. This has a pretty low entry bar. So you can literally come here, you can do anything. There's a lot of people who study literature or economics or I don't know, like, and they enter this Linguistic Olympiad and they actually did some pretty great scores. And after they gone on to university, they actually choose a diverse range of majors. So a lot of people got into linguistics, of course, but there are also people who got into computer science. That's actually a large majority of them. But you can also go on philosophy, political science, chemistry, economics, I don't know, everything. I know like people who go on some wacky majors, and Linguistic Olympiads have, the students that attend this typically have a diverse amount of interest, and linguistics is just one of them. So what's linguistics and why do we have to care about it? I know I'm not the perfect person to talk about this, but it's a crossroad between science and humanities. Some people call it the most sciencey of the humanities and the most humanity of sciences, but I'm not sure, I don't, yeah. But we talk about, like in the media, they always talk about, oh, AI, machine learning, and some of them is based on natural language processing, NLP, not to be confused with the other NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. I think that's the term. That's pseudo-scientific. I think that's a way I think that's a way of brainwashing. I don't know, but anyways, yeah, NLP, the ones that computer used, right? Speech pathology, that's kind of pretty hot right now. So linguistics, the subfields especially, the ones that are typically interdisciplinary, they are pretty popular for people to choose, and it is based on linguistics as, it's a linguistics and crossover with some other stuff. Abilities to require to solve these linguistic problems are actually not, most of them are not based on linguistics. So even though if like you have a PhD in linguistics, you might still not beat like a 12-year-old. I know, yes. It might be morally challenged. You might be morally challenged by that, but that's the truth. If a 12-year-old has really good analytical skills, and that's true. I've seen 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds join this Olympiad, and they won medals. So you can be like a prodigy and still enter this and still beat some like professors or postdocs, I don't know. And yeah, so these abilities that you apply on these problems can be easily transferable to other fields. So example, like you don't have to study about linguistics, but if you study mathematics or biology or some social sciences, these abilities that you apply on linguistic problems, they can be easily transferable. You can use these techniques to focus on research. So I know, like, as with like anything in history, a history of everything, it's always debatable. No one knows who actually invented the first airplane. No one actually knows who invented the first light bulb, and no one actually knew about who invented the first Linguistic Olympiad. But the common consensus is that it's invented by Alfred Zhurinsky in Moscow in 1960, during the 60s. But there are also some independent ones created in USA and Bulgaria and Netherlands during the 80s and 90s. And then the Bulgarian teams and the Russian teams, they had some communication. They started to train with each other. They started to compete with each other. And that served as a foundation for Linguistic Olympiads. So in 2003, with 6 teams, I forgot which 6, but contains Bulgaria, Russia, Netherlands, Poland, and 2 other teams. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. But they started the first Linguistic Olympiads, and starts this International Linguistic Olympiad. It's now one of the 13 International Science Olympiads. And with math, I don't know if any of you guys know about IMO or IOI or IPHO, mathematics, informatics, physics, respectively. But this linguistics, it can actually be a competition as well. So secondary school students for all over the world, they come to a certain country. For example, this year it's in Korea, next year it will be in Latvia. So they will come to a different country every year around the world, and they will gather to join one single competition. Solutions must come with clear reasoning. That means you can't just write the solutions. You also have to write your explanations. You also have to write how you got to this answer. And they're designed by the very multilingual problem committee and the jury. They're independent from the organization themselves, and they're constituted of several people. I mean, they might be former team leaders, they might be former contestants, but generally people who are already very experienced in this field, and they design the problems, and they're also multilingual, so they're also in charge of editing these problems. So we'll talk about how many languages they're offered, and why is multilingual, being a polyglot is very important on being in the committee, as well as designing the problems, as well as solving the problems. So it's a week-long event. It's 2 days. It's split into individual contests and team contests. Individual contests, it's 5 problems in 6 hours. You might think 6 hours, that's a lot of time to give them if it's just 5 problems. We just said it's, have you seen this? Have you seen this problem? This problem, it stumped, I think like 80% of people, no, 90% of the people that year. I was at that year as well. 90% of that year, I think, got a score under 3. I'm not sure. And this is 20 points in total. So the average score is around 2 or 3. And so you know why they give you 6 hours to solve 5 problems, because one problem typically takes more than an hour or an hour and a half. And you have kind of distributed time to solve, like, which problems do I want to try first? Which problems should I end right here and try another problem? Or else, time management is really important when you do this as well. So not only is like these thinking skills very important, you also have to think, like, how do you distribute your time? And it's a week-long event. So on like day 4, it's a team contest. It's just one big problem. They might want you to translate like 100 sentences, and you typically can't solve all of it. So most of the times, no one solved everything. We're just seeing like how many teams, like who got the highest score. So one team is constituted of 4 people, and those 4 people, like, we always say 2 heads are better than 1. No, let's see about 4 heads. And they have to gather around in a room and for maybe 3 or 4 hours to look at one single paper, or maybe just pieces of paper, and try to solve problems on it. I know it's not really attracting, but that's just how it is. Day 3, we have an excursion. Day 1 is opening ceremony. Day 5 is the closing ceremony. So it's basically a week-long event with actually a lot of other events. So we have trivia contests, we have karaoke, we'll have a lot of lectures on indigenous languages as well, and from many professors to talk about them. So basically it's a way for secondary schools to gain exposure to linguistics, and for them to gather around, meet the people that are like-minded. And so it's more than just a competition. It's normally held in the end of July or early August. So most students are still on vacation, and there's more time for training camp, and as well as doing the competition as well. So this is the logo of ILL. You might be wondering, oh, it's the International Linguistics Olympiad. It should be ILO. Why is it called IOL? Well, the main spirit of ILL is that we embrace all languages in the world, and if we put it as ILO, it might be biased to English, because if it's, let's say French, it might be OLI. So in order to not be biased, we kind of did a whole survey in a lot of languages in the world, and we found out the only combination that doesn't exist as abbreviations is IOL. That's how it came. Yeah, that's kind of came into shape, and we just call it ever since. And only people in this kind of competition, they know about this. People outside is like, they're just wondering, they're just pondering like, what? Okay, that didn't make sense, but okay, we'll let you do that. This is the official logo of IOL, by the way. It's designed by Agata Wazarovich. Sorry for butchering the name. If you're watching on video, this is also on YouTube as well. So there's a lot of countries joining IOL. This is a country's host. This is a host of countries that will be hosting IOL or have hosted in the past few years. So 2016 is in India, 2017 is Dublin, 2018 it's in Prague, Czech Republic, 2019 this year it's in Yongin, Korea in Hankook University of Foreign Studies, and the next 3 years it will be in Latvia. And the next two countries are very interesting. I'll talk about them for a while. The Isle of Man. So weirdly enough, the Isle of Man, of the population of I think 80,000 or 50,000, they are a single entity at IOL, and they often send teams. So there will be a whole team constituted of Manx people, and it would just four people out of a population of 80,000, and sometimes like the one in Ireland, they send 2 teams. So there are 2 Manx teams at IOL, like say IOL 2017. So in 2021, it's planned that they host IOL, and if they have a population of 50,000, 80,000, then it is expected if they actually hold IOL in 2021, we will boost the population of the whole island by 1%. I have no idea how they do the logistics. We'll let them sort it out. And the second country I want to talk about is Canada. So Canada has 2 teams. They had 2 teams until 3 or 4 years ago. Now they kind of split up. So it's kind of call it, I don't know, the Canadexit. It's based on like Brexit. Anyways, so now they have a Canadian team, Anglophone team, and a Canadian Francophone team. So Francophone team, of course, based in Quebec, and Anglophone team is based in, I don't know, Ontario? I'm not sure. But the thing is, the Anglophone team, they had the same competition as the American team. So they went through the same test. It's called NACLO, North American Computational Linguistics Olympiad, and the Canadian Anglophone ones do the same test as the USA ones. But the Francophone team, they have their own competition. So I actually don't know how their training works, but I think they all train together. But the Francophone team also speak English, so I think they kind of give way they also speak French. The important thing is that Canada is split into Anglophone and Francophone. So maybe other countries might follow suit. There's no Belgium team yet, but if they do join, there might be a Dutch team and a French team. I don't know, Switzerland. I have no idea how they'll split Switzerland. I don't know if they'll do it by several countries or just one single team. But, well, they haven't joined yet, so it's not a problem yet. But when they do, that will be a problem. So we give them a lot of linguistic wiggling, a lot of freedom. So if whatever language they choose, we will probably give, it has to be accredited first. So you have to tell us, which language you want to choose first. But then after that, we was like, if you want a paper in Esperanto, or you want a paper in, I don't know, Yoruba, in Zulu, whatever language you choose, if you ask it well, we could probably let you do it. Well, the first thing is you have to be able to be comfortable in writing it as well. But that is what it is. Like, we value it greatly because we know that what language you choose can influence like how well you perform. So for instance, I've done English. I've done the paper in English and Chinese, and I have had different results in that as well. So that might give you an insight on these working languages. There are a total of, I think, 27, 28 of them. And they have a whole range of languages ranging from Bengali to Ukrainian. So the problem committee, as normal, we have to be very multilingual. And there are a few languages coming up. So the Armenian team has been saying a few times they want to join the Vietnamese team as well. But due to funding reasons, they weren't always be able to make it. But if they do, they'll probably do it in Armenian, in Vietnamese. And there's a Nepali team, but they currently do it in English. Not sure if they do it in Nepali in the future. But as jury members, we have to be prepared for that. And here are some new additions to the recent competition. So this year we had 4 new teams from Uzbekistan, from Hong Kong, from Colombia, and from Nepal. And last year we had new Danish and Malaysian teams. And 2017 was the advent of the new Francophone team. So they're kind of bursting out like mushrooms, and we are having new teams gaining traction around the world. So you can see a picture of the countries that have joined the IOL. We can see a lot of European countries, a lot of Asian countries, some American countries, and then there's Australia. But we can see there's a blob of white in Africa. There's currently no African countries joining us at the moment, but we hope we do. Like, there's a few African countries that are already interested. Tunisia, Kenya, South Africa, they have shown interest on joining the Olympiad, and they have been in contact with us in the past few years. Hope they join, but we kind of have a running joke that, well, since Olympiads are based on languages, if an African country joins the International Linguistic Olympiad, we'll probably have to change the whole contest because most of the languages kind of come from there. So we can't choose a language that's obvious bias to one of those countries. So recently we have grown in numbers. So in 2015 in Bulgaria we have people representing 29 countries. In 2019, this year, we have 35. So it's, we have 36, sorry. So it's an addition of 7 new countries, and the participants, we have gained at least 43 participants. So it's gaining, like I said, it's gaining traction around the world, and more countries have been joined. So this is a picture from this year's ILO. There's a lot of people. I think numerous people have like 600, participants there are 200, but adding team leaders and organizers and volunteers, there's around a number of 400, 500 people joining in total. And we hope this number can grow and grow in the future because Linguistic Olympiad, this has become a buzzword recently. They are very creative as well. So they are also make memes. They have their own meme page. I have several as well. And they folks are just basically just creativity, just having fun, joking about the competition. And I feel like it's a great way to put out stress as well as having interaction with other people as well. Linguistic Olympiads in Indigenous languages. So one focus of this conference, this unbiased nature of linguistic problems prompts us that we kind of have to use indigenous languages, minority languages, or endangered languages as the base of our problems, because normally those languages have the most interesting features that don't exist in our major languages. So, for example, some languages might change tense based on tone. South Africa, they have a lot of click languages, a lot of wacky, I can't think of one off of my head, but a lot of them have wacky features, and we like to base on them for challenging, using as the base of our toughest puzzles every year to test the most talented young linguists in the world. And they also help, putting them into problems, they also help on raising awareness of these languages. So for instance, if you've been to Michael Campbell's talk yesterday, you'll know about Yurok is a language that is recently extinct. Well, it is also a language that was featured in this year's Linguistics Olympiad. It has currently 0 speakers. I'm sorry about that, but that is also a way I learned about this language because someone made a problem about it. I learned about this language from this. So as you can see, we can base on indigenous languages in the Linguistics Olympiad. We have languages from Papua New Guinea, from the USA, from places like Indonesia and Cameroon. So I feel like this year's Olympiad covers a lot. So we have historic languages, we have stuff that isn't even a language. Rhythm gymnastics, it's on notations that the judges use when they judge the movements of rhythmic gymnasts. It's kind of very hard. It's kind of like shorthand, but we test them on that. So it doesn't really have to be on language. It could be on barcodes. It can be on ISB and the codes that the book has. It can be on DNA. Basically anything that is a system and basically anything that has patterns can be made into a linguistic problem. And as we said, having linguistic lectures, having professors to talk about these indigenous language, we hope we can raise awareness of them in general as well. So here's another focus of this conference, which is Asia. Linguistic Olympiad in Asia, it's a special year this year because also the first year we have had the Asia Pacific Linguistics Olympiad. So it only started this year, 2019, in May. And it's founded by 4 team leaders from 4 different places, South Korea, Malaysia, India, and Taiwan. And it is different from the International Linguistics Olympiad is that you kind of sit from your own country. So if you're in South Korea, you kind of have to, there's a test location in Seoul. In India, there's a test location in Mumbai and New Delhi, I think. Malaysia, you have to go to Kuala Lumpur. Taiwan, you have to go to Taipei. You sit in your own country, but these test locations coordinate with each other. So we have communication. We probably do Google Hangouts, Skype. We have a lot of coordination to make sure that this competition makes it on the same day or anything goes wrong, we can correct each other and coordinately all around the world, all around this part of the world. But it also serves as common qualification method for IOL. So it's kind of like a heat in the Olympics. It serves as a first qualification round for you to qualify for the international round. So we can see from this year, we have a lot of test locations. We have 10 different test locations. We hope it can go more. One of the focuses that we want to go in the future is Southeast Asia. So we know Vietnam is also interested in joining this, but we hope countries like Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, they can join us as well, because we see most of these dots are based in South Asia or East Asia. This year, we also have the advent of Online Linguistics Olympiad. It's made by former team members of Ukraine, different from the International Linguistics Olympiad or any other linguistic Olympiad. It's not based on paper, it's online as the name shows. And since it's online, you can Google. But they purposely made the problems that it's not Googleable. So they probably make problems out of sound files or interactive problems that you can't, so like a sound file, there's no Google sound. So you can't Google a sound on Google. So you can search, if there's an writing, there's an orthography, you can look it up on Google, you get your answer. If they're based on sound files or they're based on sign languages, it's easily unsearchable. So they make it very hard in one sense. They either make the problem really hard or make the problem really unsearchable. So still have the spirit of the Linguistic Olympiads, but still they don't have the things that might hinder you during a normal problem. And we still have probably the last slide, our future prospects. So first thing is we hope to expand this to more countries, expand the age range to adults. In Ireland, they have this thing called All Ireland in Linguistic Olympiads, open to public. And in Taiwan, there's this hackathon thing going on. So they use linguistic problems to test the models they train, and there's this online version and offline version. Offline, you do it like pen and paper as normal, but online, you use computers to train models to solve linguistic problems. I think it's really fun. So we hope we can expand to the general public as well, but now it's kind of focused on secondary school students. More exposure, so people, you guys come to my talk. We hope you guys can spread the word as well as recognition from institutions. So recently, more and more universities have been recognizing this competition. Most of the top university has been recognizing this as a really great extracurricular event. So universities like MIT, Stanford, Cambridge, Oxford, they see this as a great competition which can help, which is a great way, a great showcase of the skills that each student has. But we also hope like education ministries of each country, they can recognize this competition all around the world, because as far as I know, a lot of them don't recognize the competition as opposed to the other science Olympiads. So they maybe they probably recognize math or physics, but not linguistics. So we hope this situation can be improved in the future. So that's kind of it. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it, especially at this early hour. And we hope to have like a Q&A session. My name is Tonia Pyne, Pan Tongle, or in Chinese. I'm from Taiwan. So I have been on Team Taiwan in the past 2 years. So 2017, 2018, I was a contestant. 2017, I won an honorable mention and a gold medal in team contest. And last year, I won a silver medal in individual contest. Last year, I was approached by the problem committee to be on the problem committee. So now I'm kind of a problem committee member. This year, I served as a jury member at this year's Olympiad. So the jury member, as I talked about them, they design problems, they translate problems, and at the competition, they grade the problems. So that's a role that jury takes, but I'm also based in Hong Kong. I'm studying in Hong Kong right now. I'm also organizing the Hong Kong Linguistic Olympiad. So as you see, Hong Kong just had a team this year that was, that's also currently part of my job, but there's also a lot of people on the team that help to make it happen. So that's kind of all roles I have. I'm not particularly in the higher roles in the International Linguistics Olympiad, but I'm just here to talk about it because I hope it can gain more traction. So how do people find out about this? Most people, I'll talk about me first. I found out about this because a friend on the internet told me about this. So people have different ways of finding about this, but we don't systematically tell it to schools. So right now I'm focused in Hong Kong. We try to spread it in secondary schools and international schools based in Hong Kong. And now we have around 100 people who signed up. So we actually tell the schools, but every country, they have their own system. I'm not sure how America promotes it or how UK promotes it, but some of them has been gaining a lot of popularity. So for instance, UK or Poland, they have been thousands of contestants join the first round. So for instance, like that promotion is pretty important, and we're part of focusing on that right now as well. So previous questions on the website, International Linguistics, IOLing, it's on the website, all the past problems from 2003 to this year, they are all public, as well as all of the national Olympiads, but as polyglots, it's all in the national languages of each country. So in Russia, it might be in Russian, in Latvia, it might be Latvian, in Korea, it might be in Korean. So all these problems are in their respective languages. But as far as I know, most national Olympiads, they publish all of their past problems. So as far as I know, there might be an estimation of 5,000, 6,000 problems. So you won't be running out of problems to test in order to prepare for this, or just to try. You know, like they always like to, it's kind of like a puzzle of patterns. They always like to say, oh, learning languages or doing crossroads, they push back Alzheimer's for a few years. Well, this is not academically proven, but I hope doing linguistic problems could have the same effect as well. So that's that. Now, there's also like a whole database of thousands of problems. Yeah, there is a lot of problems. So normally I just train with past problems. There is thousands of them, and through a lot of them, because as I said, there are only a few kinds of problem types, and through training with them, you kind of get used to, you kind of know where to start with solving these problems. And I think, I'm assuming that it depends on the person, but I feel like after training with thousands of problems, it kind of helps when you go on the international stage.